first. Good evening. Welcome to the September 27th regular meeting of the Mason County Board of Commissioners. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I want to take this opportunity just to share the news, the sad news, that Mr. Rich Geiger, an engineer with the Mason Conservation District and formerly an engineer here in Mason County, passed away unexpectedly just this last week. And if you would join me in a moment of silence to remember he, his family, and just his thoughts, your thoughts and prayers. Thank you. Rich was just an amazing man with a tremendous amount of passion and energy for the work he did in salmon conservation, flood control in the Skokomish Valley were the two areas I knew his work mostly. I'm sure that others could speak to his other work. And he will be so missed. And he was right in the middle of probably his biggest projects and ready to launch them off. And it was a huge surprise to all of us of his passing. I'm sure you knew him quite well.
Yeah, I did. I knew Rich for a long time, even before I was a commissioner. When he worked for the county, he had the office behind us here in the little house. But as you said, Commissioner, he was so devoted to what he did, and his legacy will be the Skokomish River Action Team, all the work he's put into that. Designed so many projects, and so a lot of those he will be sorely missed because of his expertise and longevity with that project.
I didn't know him well enough to say anything specific, except for I know how much he cared about his work, how much he loved what he was doing, and he was trying his best to make a huge impact, not a small one.
Yeah, and he was an Army officer.
Yes.
As well.
So just for people's information and edification, his funeral services will be noon on Friday at St. Michael's Church in Olympia. Can we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner District 1, Randy Netherland.
Here.
Commissioner District 2, Tim Sheldon.
Here as well.
Commissioner District 3, Terry Jeffrey.
Here. Item number 4, correspondence. Can you please report the correspondence received by the Commission?
The Port of Graceview sent their final budget. The Liquor and Cannabis Board sent special occasion license for North Bay Historical Society and a list of businesses with liquor and cannabis licenses due to expire within 90 days. The Freedom Foundation sent a letter regarding the Open Public Meetings Act. And Employment Security Department sent a letter regarding the Accessible Communities Act. And also I wanted to mention that Ken Van Buskirk sent comments regarding item 8.2 on tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Item number 5, this is our open forum for citizen input, an opportunity to present the Commission with to speak to the Commission on any items not on the agenda. If you would like to address the Commission, can you please raise your hand? Mr. Van Buskirk, can you please come to the podium, state your name, and if you'd like, your residence, place of residence.
Thank you, Commissioners. Ken Van Buskirk. I live on Davis Farm Road in Belfair. I just had a question before you approve the briefing minutes of August 29th. When I read through them, it said something about Commissioner Netherland was asking Commissioner Jeffries for support in directing Mr. Wyndham to work with Mr. Houth about writing a needed code for Belfair Sewer to allow development, and I just wondered what that code was and what that was. Has it happened? Has they been directed to do that? If you could share that before you approve
Please.
Yeah, and the minutes wouldn't change because that is what had occurred. For the most part, because we had put forward a plan to solidify the financial aspects of the Belfair sewer. In order to do anything, though, there are things that would have to be written up in order to even bring forward to even look at putting into code. At this point, it has not been written up in any formal way to be able to show how it would go into the code, where it would replace, what parts it would fix or change. And what this does is allows for an opportunity for the two directors to work together to put together a draft of what that would look like.
Okay, so
And it's a draft, it's not an approval
the
of it.
code
it's
will
not-
be codified.
Oh, there's a whole process that has to go. That just is to allow them to work together.
Okay, I just wanted to double check because of the wording,
I understand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to address the commission? Mr. Schmelzen, hello.
Hello. My name's Kevin Schmelzlin. I live on Fireweed Road on the Arcadia Peninsula. And I want to, first of all, thank you for those kind words for Rich Geiger. I'm sure it sounds like at least a couple of you knew Rich even better than I did, but I worked with Rich at Mason Conservation District for the last 6 months, and he's been just a wonderful person and has obviously had a huge impact, and I really appreciate what you said about him. The reason I'm here today is to speak about Shelton to the Top and a little bit about what we did on the Day of Caring with United Way of Mason County. On the Day of Caring, which is a little over a month ago, I've been hoping to make it in before today, but we cleaned up over 24,000 pounds of trash, several thousands of pounds of appliances. Commissioner Jeffries was there. She saw it all in action, and it was a huge, Steve Drewski, and there were a lot of people there. I think county-wide, well over 200 volunteers working with United Way of Mason County on several different projects, not just the trash cleanup. But with the city of Shelton donated provided financial support for getting rid of the trash. We knew we had these big plans, and they provided some funds, and all in all, for 24,000 pounds of trash, probably more than that in appliances and wood and tires and all these other recyclables, it cost just over $1,000 to do all that. We were really cost effective, and instead of just saying, all right, now we have money, and then just putting everything in one big garbage pile, we were specifically sorting it out and making sure that we were as effective and efficient as possible. And that's really, I see that as a good template for what we can do county-wide. And that's something, I'd spoken to you guys about a free dump day, and then we talked about voucher system, and I'm still really excited about that county-wide impact. But I really see what we did on the Day of Caring as being a really good template county-wide. And in the city of Shelton, I have both, United Way of Mason County is located here, Skookum Rotary is located in Shelton, Shelton to the Top obviously is centered in Shelton. But I see us working with service groups and community groups across the county and really having these service groups and community groups take a lead role in getting the people, at least, to help us with these cleanups and really have this be a countywide effort. And we had talked about the county hopefully providing some funding for that, and I hope that that does move forward. But I just wanted to let you know, as opposed to a voucher system where it's just more arbitrary as far as where those are going out, I see this as a way that we can both hit the areas that are really, really in need, which is what we did in the city of Shelton on the Day of Caring, but also provide an avenue like we did in the city of Shelton on the Day of Caring for people to come and bring their trash, and we can verify and make sure that trash goes in the trash pile, recycling goes in the recycling pile. And like I said, even putting out an open invitation for the city of Shelton to come and bring their trash, it only costs us $1,000. So I really think if we do this as efficiently and effectively as we did on the Day of Caring, that we can have a huge impact countywide for relatively very little cost.
Thank you. Can't argue with anything you just said, by the way.
It's a function of pulling it together. But thank you for that, and we'll endeavor to work towards that. Because I agree that it's, especially the way you did it, that we could save a lot of money. In fact, there was even a gentleman that picked up our metal for recycling himself. Is there anybody else that would like to address the commission? Hearing none, then we will move on to item number 6. This is the adoption of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the agenda presented today with the exception of item 8.2. And if you'd like, I could speak to that.
Are we to that point, or?
So to remove adoption, move-
8.2 from the action agenda.
is there a second?
No?
Could I
Um,
describe my motion?
I suppose you could, yes.
Well, I hope I can.
No, I'm sorry.
This item does not even have a dollar amount, and it's $1.5 million. I think that's very significant. I was
The
Of
cost
the-
of the project.
cost of the design for a Phase 2 of the Belfair sewer system. Now, I was here for the design of Phase 1 of the sewer system in Belfair, and we had several public meetings. We had consultants who came in who put together workshops where people were able to come together and look at maps, ask questions about the design, about the impact to their community. This, I think, is a little premature, and what I'd like to do with my motion is just to delay this a couple months where we could have some public hearings or some more information for the public. In the briefing materials, I read that it's going to serve 220 parcels in Belfair. I think people need to know where those parcels are, and it says it will eliminate 170 septic systems. I think the people that own those septic systems need to weigh in and also understand that this could be very expensive for them, but also the ramifications of it. So that's why I think we should hold off on this item till the public can get information.
I assume we'll have that conversation if it'll be pulled during the action agenda, right? So just wait until you pull it.
I can appreciate thank you for your explanation. So there is a second, or is there a second to the motion? Hearing none, the motion fails.
Madam Chair, I move for the adoption of the agenda as presented.
Is there a second? I will second that motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Right?
Aye. Any
No,
nays?
No, I'd just like to wait, have it delayed. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 7, approval of the minutes.
Madam Chair, I'd move for the approval of the minutes, but it sounds like there is from Mr. Van Buskirk's comment that there would be perhaps a correction or addition to the minutes to describe that sentence that he brought up. I'm looking for it.
It is on the,
The bottom of the first page, it reads, Commissioner Netherland asked Commissioner Jeffries for support to direct Support Services Director Dave Wyndham to work with Public Works Director Jerry Houth to write the needed code for the Belfair sewer to allow development. And I think
What would you like it to say? You weren't here, so I...
the way Mr. Van Buskirk described it, perhaps the word plan should be inserted after sewer. That would be my suggestion, but if you two were here and could clarify it better, that might be useful.
so that would change the sentence to Commissioner Netherland asked Commissioner Jeffries for support to direct Community Services Director Dave Wyndham to work with Public Works Director Jerry Houth to write the needed code for the Belfair sewer plan to allow development.
Okay.
Do you concur?
No, I'm going with that. That's what happened. That's the same thing, yeah.
I wasn't here, so does that clarify?
Yeah,
That better? All right.
that's what it was. It was the plan. There's nothing being passed, or it just...
Can I make a suggestion? That we would insert the word finance plan. So the sentence would read, Commissioner Netherland asked Commissioner Jeffries for support to direct Support Services Director Dave Wyndham to work with Public Works Director Jerry Houth to write the needed code for the Belfair sewer finance plan to allow development. I think that
Okay.
even adds more clarification.
I think it does, but do we have a finance plan?
There was a finance plan presented and adopted
Agreed to go forward.
Agreed to go forward.
But not adopted.
Not
a year ago.
adopted.
The adoption of the plan would have been necessary in to have code change. And so that's the piece that
Right,
hadn't been
but we have not adopted a plan.
No, we have not adopted a plan in a formal sense, no.
All right.
Okay, so, there was that a motion? My apologies, was that a motion? to
Yes, I'll
approve those revisions?
include your wording in my motion to adopt the minutes with that correction,
I'll
or
second.
addition, excuse me.
It's moved and second to adopt August 29, 2016 briefing meeting minutes as just revised. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Right?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. The next item is the approval of the action agenda. We will read through each of the action agenda items. The intention is that we will take one vote on the items on the agenda and approve them all with one vote. Following the reading of the items, people in the audience, plus the commission have an option to have the opportunity to ask any questions on any of the items for clarification. You also have the opportunity to ask that any of the items be pulled for a separate vote and testimony. I will read the first three items on the action agenda. Ask Commissioner Netherland to please read the next three items, 8.4 through 8.6, and ask Commissioner Sheldon to read 8.7 through 8.9. Item 8.1, approval for the board to authorize the Public Works, Utilities, and Waste Management to accept and sign the 2015 through 2017 Coordinated Prevention Grant Agreement, number W2R CPG-MACOUW-00012, between Washington State Department of Ecology and Mason County Utilities Management for solid waste programs. 8.2, approval for the board to authorize the Deputy Director, Utilities and Waste Manager to submit a grant application to the Department of Ecology for design of Belfair Phase 2 collection system. Item 8.3, approval for the board to authorize Public Works, Utility and Waste Management to use the County Municipal Research and Services Center, MRSC roster, to select and enter into agreements for electrical and software installations and repair services during the 2016 and 2017 calendar year.
Madam Chair, item number 8.4, approval to set a public hearing on October 11, 2016 to consider the sale of real property located at 180 East Peebles Court, Shelton, parcel number 32127-54-00110. Item number 8.5, approval of an interlocal agreement between Mason County and Mason Transit Authority, MTA, allowing MTA continued use of William O. Hunter Park as a bus stop and authorize MTA to replace the current bus stop shelter. Item number 8.6, approval of the professional services contract amendment between Mason County and Robert Droll, landscape architect, for design, engineering, bidding, permitting, and project management services for Sand Hill Park Fields 1 and 2 improvement project, funded in part through a grant from the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office, RCO.
8.7, approval of the contract with Pacific Security for armed and unarmed weapons screening for courthouse and campus security. The estimated one-year cost for basic services is $139,478, unless the county requires additional security coverage, and shall start on October 1, 2016, and end on September 30, 2017. 8.8, approval of the Veterans Assistance Fund applications for food, $150, and utilities, $158.99, for a total of $308.99 as recommended by the Veterans Service Office. And 8.9, approval to authorize Public Works, University of Washington Management Division to use the County Municipal Research and Services Center, MRSC roster, to collect and enter into an agreement for water and wastewater management services. Now, the UW...
Utilities and waste.
Utility and waste. I'm thinking the Huskies game.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience that has any items on that were just on any questions on any of the items just read? Commissioner. Oh, Mr. Musker. This is for questions.
I have a couple of questions on item 8.2.
I'm going to assume that there is going to be a motion to remove 8.2 for a separate vote.
I would make that.
Then we'll hold, yeah, okay. Are there any questions on any of the other items on the action agenda? There's been a request to remove item 8.2 for testimony, separate testimony and a vote. Are there any other requests for any items to be pulled for separate testimony and vote?
Just one item, I think 8.6, it would be useful to let the public know of the cost of the contract. Some of these contracts we're being asked to approve don't have a dollar amount. And I don't see it in the briefing materials for the contract for the landscaping architect.
Jeff Rabel, would you be willing to stand up to the...
Yes, actually, this particular item
Could you
is...
introduce your name yourself,
I'm
please?
sorry, Jeff Rabel, Facilities, Parks and Trails Manager. This action item is just an extension of the existing contract with Bob Droll's office. As far as it's a $450,000 project. $225,000 of it was an RCO grant, the other is the county match. But this particular item is just an extension into next year so we can complete the project.
So this is a time extension.
Yes.
So let's pull it off so we can get the verbiage correct for the record. We'll pull off 8.6.
So table that.
No, pull it off, and
Okay.
I'll make a motion that will correct
Okay.
the language for the record.
Thank you. Are there any other items that anybody would like to be pulled for a separate vote? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of the action agenda items removing 8.2 and 8.6 for a separate vote.
I'll second the motion,
It's
Madam
been
Chair.
moved and seconded to approve the action agenda except for items 8.2 and 8.6, which will be discussed separately. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carried. Item 8.2.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Sheldon, would you mind if we did 8.6
No, no.
first, just to simplify it?
Sure.
Madam Chair, I move for an approval of item 8.6 to read approval of extension for the professional services contract amendment between Mason County and Robert Droll Landscaping, Architect, Design, Engineering, Bidding, Permitting, Project Management Services, Sand Hill 1 and 2 Improvement Project, funded in part through a grant from the Washington State Recreation Conservation Office, RCO.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the extension of the professional services contract amendment between Mason County and Robert Droll Landscape Architect for design, engineering, bidding, permitting, and project management services as stated in the motion. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carried. Item 8.2. Jerry Houth, our Public Works Director, please present this item.
Good evening, Board. Terry Howe, Public Works Department. Item 8.2 reflects the application to Ecology for the next round of grant cycles. And the grant cycle is coming due the 21st of October. The biennium will provide the funds until the end of June. But if we don't have the grant in basically 3 weeks, we won't even be considered for this grant cycle. So that's why we were requesting authorization for the chair to sign the grant applications that Bart has put together.
And the grant, okay, so the cycle would, the next cycle would be which dates? Starting which year?
The biennium beginning June, July in 2017 to 2019. And, as Commissioner Sheldon had requested as far as public output, we would have the opportunity between now and that timeline to do the interaction with the community up there and explain, answer, identify whatever we needed to address their concerns. But again, we've got 3 weeks to have the grant in a format that Ecology will accept.
Yeah, at the briefings, Commissioner Sheldon was not able to hear that, but at the briefings, you also explained that the 1.5 million is not even that's not
That's 15%.
Yeah, you
That's,
just picked a number that would be the upper end of the cost and going for a grant that'd be realistic, better safe than sorry. So-
that was a very conservative number based on standards in the industry.
So, Madam Chair, if I could, so Jerry, the cost of the Phase 2 could be $10 million?
I've seen that. I've seen ranges from as low as 6 to as high as 12 in the documentation that's been prepared to date on this.
Well,
I have no sense for which one's more accurate. I need to own up to that right off the bat. But taking the $10 million as being a representative, a conservative representative of the upper end, we budgeted 15% of that.
and you think $10 million would complete the project to service 260 parcels and remove 170 septic tanks?
You're asking me more than I know about this part of the work. I believe it would. I think that, well, recent example, the south side of Shelton. I was involved in the construction of we replaced and rejuvenated far more lineal footage of sewer up there, and it was, I think, $3 million or something in that range, $4 million, but a different environment. And until we get into the planning process and do the preliminary engineering and deal with some of the issues like whether there's stream crossings or other utility conflicts and stuff like that, I really can't answer that question. That's why I was using the higher end of the range as far as the estimates that we put together.
So that project, is it Lake Shore, is that the name of it that Shelton did, going out the Coquitlam Road?
You're talking about Pioneer Way?
Yeah,
Yeah,
is that the project you're thinking of?
Yes.
Okay, that project, didn't the city have extensive public hearings before they started that project and took any ecology dollars? I think there was some ecology dollars in that project,
it was
right?
USDA funds that I was using during
Right.
construction. And they may have, I wasn't there for that. I was there for the finalization
Uh-huh.
of the design, and we did have public input and interaction with them prior to starting the project.
Okay.
Any other questions? Is there anybody in the audience that has questions for Mr.
Yeah,
Howe?
I have a couple of questions. Mr. Howe, what is Phase 2?
The Phase 2 boundary that's been identified is the area that's north of Belfair, along the old Belfair Highway. Phase 2 boundary was identified, I think probably back when the original conception of the Belfair treatment plant sewerage area was identified.
Were you aware that in December 20th of 2011, the Board of County Commissioners had a meeting and they revised the comprehensive plan that eliminated references to Phase 2?
I was not.
Yeah, so it just caught me by surprise that I saw this on the consent agenda because the phasing was eliminated. And there's a lot of things that need to be discussed with this. I have another, well, perhaps Commissioner.
We will open it up for testimony. If you have questions, this
Okay.
is your time to ask the questions.
Oh, okay.
So, if I might, one more then, Madam Chair. Jerry, is there any map at all of that area that the public could look at? So
Certainly.
I found that when talking to constituents about these projects, and they realize that this is going to be out of their pocket, a big chunk of it, to
Potentially, yeah.
decommission their septic system, even if it's functioning well. Is there any map that they could find right now that would show them if this is approved, that their septic is targeted for removal?
I can show them the map that I've referenced that identifies the Phase 2 area, along with the conceptual sewerage of that area. It's not online at this time, but it's laying on my throw table in the office. We could certainly get it online, or I can make copies for Ken or whoever.
It is on.
It is? Okay.
Does the map encompass the River Hill development?
I believe so.
And how many houses are in River Hill?
It doesn't? Okay.
Oh, it does not include that portion? Okay. So Old Belfair Highway, basically north.
It's a rectangular shape going up the old Belfair Highway.
And this is not Romance Hill?
No. This is, I believe, the northerly portion of the UGA area in Belfair. And it may be coincidental with that as far as the footprint.
And the cost would be, to the county, would be $750,000 for the design?
We're trying to get and plead the hardship case. The ecology hasn't committed to any cost at this time. I'll be over at ICCA, whatever the conference is in Wenatchee, in a couple of weeks, and trying to put together as good a package as we can for funding this. Depending on how ecology looks at it, it might be 50-50, it might be a third, 2/3, or reverse the other direction. We have looked at the overall collective area within the Belfair sewer system, and collectively the median income would be pretty low, and I think would qualify as a hardship. If we are limited to that area within the phase 2 area we've been talking about, I don't know how that would work out. We have more questions than we have answers at this time.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Houth, appreciate it. I'm going to open the floor for public testimony on this item. Is there anybody that would like to testify? Mr. Van Buskirk? State your name for the record, that would be helpful.
Sure. Ken Van Buskirk, Davis Farm Road, in the right on the edge of the conceptual phase 2, or whatever it's called. You know, I sent that email to you asking that that this be pulled from the agenda, and I'd really like you to table it until after the election. Same thing happened back in 2012. There was an election, and at that time, the commission turned down the original Phase 2 grant to wait until after the election had happened, and they turned it down. It doesn't, Belfair can't afford any more construction. We need a break. The road has been torn up for quite a while now. The water district tore up the lines, the main phase of the sewer. We need to call a timeout and let the people catch our breath. And I'd like to ask that if you do move forward with this grant, that all of those parcel owners be notified after, in 2011, when the reference to phasing was pulled out, was right after that when the signs were put up, that so people knew when they were entering, leaving the urban growth area. Because those folks still, they probably assumed that, you know, Phase 2 had gone by the wayside. So now to see it come back, especially in a consent agenda, I'd like you to notify those folks. Back in 2011, when that reference to phasing was pulled out, all three of the setting commissioners at the time said that the urban growth boundary in Belfair needed to be relooked at. Right now, this year is the year that the comprehensive plan is supposed to be updated. Won't be updated again for another 10 years. The urban growth boundary will probably just go by the wayside again, and it'll be the same thing. I urge you not to commit to something that could end up being a disaster. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to testify on this item? Hearing none, I will close public testimony and we'll move to commissioner deliberation.
Well, I'll start. I'd like to echo the concerns that Ken brought forward. I was here in 2005, I think was the first year I was elected. 2004 or 5. Anyway, I'm finishing my 12th year. The Belfair wastewater has been a very large part of our deliberations as a county commission. And in the beginning, certainly the 3 commissioners at that time supported what was now known as Phase 1. And Phase 1 was the commercial, hopefully was the commercial core of Belfair. And then I believe it was 2011 when the commissioners had another offer from Ecology for some grant money to begin Phase 2. And the commission, after the election, that commission decided not to accept the money. And I believe that's correct, that we did amend some plans that deleted a Phase 2 from consideration. And I've always felt that Phase 1 would begin to pay for itself as development occurred. And as you both know, development has not occurred to the extent possible to pay for even Phase 1. And because we've been struggling, I did go to the legislature 2 years ago now in January, and did find $1.5 million to help with debt relief for the Belfair wastewater system, and $1.5 million for debt relief and for the city of Shelton for their sewer as well, because small communities have a heck of a time paying for large projects. So I'd like to see us wait till after the election again to have the public weigh in on this. Maybe it takes an advisory vote. I know it would take some public meetings, some workshops, but an advisory vote might be asking the people, should we be applying for $1.5 million and beginning a project upwards of $10 million that when we really are having difficulty paying for the project as it starts, as it's been implemented with Phase 1. And I've said this over and over again. I think that the Belfair UGA is too large. It is way too large to serve. And the Growth Management Act mandates that we service the urban growth areas. That area, it would take, there's what? At one time there were 4 phases planned. Tens and tens of millions of dollars to service that area when the growth has not developed. In Phase 1, we were told that, I think our growth rate, if Commissioner Netherland might remember, you weren't a commissioner then, but I think it was 8% were the projections for growth. 7 or 8%. We have not seen anywhere close to that kind of increase in population growth in Mason County. And when you look at a small county that's less than 1% of the population of the state of Washington, less than 1% of the population of the state of Washington, it is a tremendous burden on homeowners to find the dollars to decommission their septic. It may be working perfectly well. And I don't know, of these 170 that would be eliminated by this project, I don't think anyone knows how many of those are working quite well, are pumped regularly, are serving the homeowner just like they're intended to do. So I'm reluctant to vote. I'm not going to vote for it, but I would really like to see us have some public hearings and get some public input before we commit even to a grant of $1.5 million. Ecology is going to expect us to take the money. If we put up $750,000, we got a lot of blowback in 2011 when we said, hold up. When the commission said, let's take a break, let's hold up and see how phase one does. So I'm very reluctant to sign on, put my name on a grant application for $1.5 million at this time.
Commissioner Shelton, I couldn't agree with you more with everything that you said, because those are all the same words I said at the time when the sewer was coming through. Almost verbatim, every single thing. The problem that I have right now is a person that's sitting here and who fought it and fought it and fought it and fought it and fought it is, although I agreed with all that, the commission went forward and obligated this county. They put us in a situation where they're supposed to be hooked up 2017. There were grants and loans taken on my name and every name of Mason County to pay for this system. The tens of millions, I remember at the time sitting here and arguing with the commission as a whole, that they were talking 24, and it was obvious it was not 24 million, and that 24 million at the time when we were first battling that was supposed to sewer the whole county, or the whole urban growth area. We knew it was wrong. We told the commission it was wrong. Everybody that came told the commission it was wrong. But the commission went forward and obligated this county anyway. There are so much money, so much grants and loans that we will have to pay back because of those obligations that past commission, including yourself, decided to do and to burden this county with it. I want to clarify that phase two, the consideration of phase two was not, the properties in phase two were not taken out of consideration. What it was is it was the removal of calling things a phase. That's what was taken out. I was on the planning commission at the time, and I was part of that whole argument. It was taking out the concept of calling them phases, which was nothing but just, in my opinion, a smoke and mirror, because the truth is, the obligations were still done. They still had to be built. I would rather there not even be a sewer system there. Currently, we have a sewer system that is running on half of what it's necessary to even run, because we only built this one small little piece of it, and so the system is failing in different aspects because we're tricking it, trying to get it to run without the affluent that's there. Take money before, Shelton taking money before, did they take money before having the meetings? There was tons of public meetings before you committed everybody to this. There will be meetings, I'm sure, again, because we have to take everything to the public when we're done with this, probably in the 17 to 19 biennium, because that's what you do before you take the money from USDA. But even at that time, we're still backed up with the idea that we have to fulfill obligations of the commissions that signed those loans and took those grants, telling them that we would do this. Also, the Belfair Urban Growth Area has a moratorium on it where these properties cannot subdivide, they cannot build a mother-in-law cabin, they can't build a new house, they can't do anything because of those same commitments that were made in the past commission. We're talking again about the approval to send forward a grant. The law that you put in place says we're supposed to be moving forward with this project. I hope that we find a way to where we don't have to, but currently we do. I would love if you would bring something forward that can help change all these codes and all these things that were put in, because right now that's what we have to deal with. And if you do, I'd love to have a conversation, but I would love to find a way to take all this debt off of Mason County and not force anybody to be hooked up that system ever again. But I can't.
But you're adding more debt.
Right now,
If you go ahead with this, you are going to add potentially 6, 8, close to $10 million in debt?
actually, that's not correct.
What?
If you were at the briefings, you'd find that, we're going on the upper end of the construction costs because that's the best way to look about it. As he said, it could be 6 million. We've actually seen some as 4 if we want low pressure systems. There's ways of bringing down those costs, of which the discussion has been with ecology from myself and others to get an 85%, if not 95% granting in order to cover all that. So that brings that amount way down. Again, I would rather there never be a single burden of another dollar on that community or this county. But you and the other commissions entered into this agreement, took all that money, because you remember, you got all that grant money before, which was wonderful, you got in grant. I appreciate it, but the problem is, with that came strings. And the strings said that we would have that sewered. If we do not, we have to start paying back that grant money, the stuff that was given to us. That becomes a loan, and with that becomes a high percentage rate. How? How can this county survive that?
Why don't we have some public hearings and discuss all these allegations you're making now about the sewer, or the way you remember it? I'd like to have some people from ecology come down and give us, like we did before, after we did phase 1 and decided not to go ahead with the phase 2 because of the cost. We had people from ecology, we had people from the Office of Community Development, the Growth Management Division that were here in the chamber, explaining to us ramifications, possibilities. I'd like to hear from people in the financial world too about refinancing of the debt. Many public entities are refinanced debt right now, and the rates are good. They will probably go up after the election. I'll guarantee you that the borrowing rate, the Fed will raise the rate after the election. And I think it's just prudent for us to wait till after the election. What's the harm in letting the public weigh in?
I'm going to step in here. I don't think that anybody's going to change anybody's mind here, so I will go ahead and weigh in my part of the deliberation and then call for a vote. The Belfair sewer system cannot operate with the amount of sewage that's being collected. The thought was, I'm assuming, that we would grow into this system. We did not grow into this system. In fact, we're doing the opposite by not expanding the system because we can't even allow people to grow in Belfair unless they're on the system. Where the system serves right now is pretty developed, and you would need to redevelop a lot of properties, which is very expensive and less attractive to developers. I believe we need to expand the system into areas that is zoned for development and be able to accommodate the growth that was expected, the growth that we need, and invite the growth. Add to that we won't have another opportunity to apply for these funds for 2 more years. We don't have 2 more years to wait. And so our hearings, the planning, the design, etc., can all be done in a public discussion. We're not going to get another opportunity for 2 years to ask for this money. And so at the very least, we need to expedite the request for the money and simultaneously have the public discussions. So I'm going to vote yes for this item.
Well, Madam Chair, what you just said was you need to do this for the developers. And we do not even have a financial plan that's been adopted by the Commission. That I find just a square peg in a round hole. That doesn't seem to make much sense to me.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, but what I heard was we needed to do this because the system doesn't work and it's busted and the people can't develop in the county, they can't do anything or move. That's what I heard the commissioner say.
What I said is we don't have enough sewage to operate it efficiently, so what we need is growth. So what we need to do is accommodate growth and or encourage growth, and you can't encourage the kind of growth that you're going to require in an area that is not a greenfield, so to speak, or an area that has to be redeveloped. It's going to be very difficult. It's difficult enough in that we are dependent on our neighboring counties to be overgrown so that we will have the spillback effect, so to speak, of not having enough affordable housing or affordable way to develop in our neighboring counties. We have to be, as much as we can, we have to take the reins and be masters of our future destiny. And in urban growth areas and in urban development, it means having adequate infrastructure to support growth.
And I'll clarify that we won't be collecting any money until after the election. So that's a different thing. This is going out for the grant. Any awarding or whatever accepting the money will be after an election. There's no way that's going to occur in such a short time. So those are our 2 separate questions. But again, we have no choice right now because this is what it said we would do, or we're going to have to pay it back.
All right. you say there's no choices. So here's another choice, two scenarios. One, we could work very closely with Kitsap County and Skia, the area around the port, to take some of the sewage from their area. We talked to that. We had Congressman Kilmer here. We had a big meeting up at the airport a couple years ago. Everybody thought, wow, that's makes sense. We've got a system that needs solids, and they could provide it. Second idea I've talked about for a long time is to take the septage that the county brings to Webb Hill, and all the septic tank pumpers take to Webb Hill. And it would, I understand it wouldn't take that much modification on our plant to accept that. They are, Ecology is trying to cut back the amount that's going to Webb Hill because it's becoming saturated. I mean, all this sewage is coming in from Kitsap County, Pierce County. You see the trucks come in down 106 or down through town here, out to Webb Hill, and it's applied on the surface of the ground on a 500-acre ranch, we'll call it. Right?
Well, yes,
So there are, if I could finish, there are other possibilities other than just obligating the county to a $10 million or $15 million project to try to sewer an area that's not growing. If we're going to hopefully wait for Kitsap's overflow, it could be an awfully long time before people say, hey, it's great opportunities in Mason County. And I just think a smaller urban growth area fits with what we have in Mason County. We're not an urban center. We're an area where a lot of retired people live, a lot of people that in Commissioner Netherland's district live and work in Kitsap County, and they live in Mason County because it's a lower price for a home, lower price for land, and they can afford it more. But if you have to remove your septic tank for $6,000, you have to hook up and you get a $100 or $150 bill a month. Commissioner, you've complained loudly about the sewer system. The first phase had to be built, or you would have no businesses in Belfair. You could shut them all down, because when the water table rises, you have to have a sewer in a commercial area. But let's not impose it on the citizens without at least their input to come in and hear what the proposal is, weigh in. They have property rights, they have expectations, they have families, they have limited income. This is extremely expensive for a homeowner and a family, and I think we just ought to wait a little while till we get some input, and that's probably after the election, before ramming this through and deciding that we're going to do phase 2, which is a huge, huge obligation for the next commission. I won't be here for the next commission, and perhaps you won't be as well, Commissioner Netherland. We don't know the outcome of that election. So, Commissioner Jeffries, you could possibly be working with 2 new commissioners here, and why obligate those 2 to something without their input?
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of the board to authorize the Deputy Director and UNW management to submit a grant application to the Department of Ecology for design of Belfair Phase 2 collection system.
I'll second that motion. It's moved and seconded to recommend to have the board authorize the Deputy Director and Utilities and Waste Manager to submit a grant application to the Department of Ecology for design of Belfair Phase 2 collection system. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I just want to say something as a state senator of District 35. I was asked to give help to the Belfair wastewater system and the Shelton wastewater system. And in the capital budget, I requested and was approved by the legislature and signed by the governor, $3 million to help those 2 communities. If I look at those 2 communities right now, Shelton has been proactive in working with other communities around the state that are in a similar situation to work for some solutions in Olympia. I hope that the new commission can also be proactive, because it's very difficult to go down to Olympia and find $3 million for communities when every small community around the state, especially in eastern Washington and Western Washington as well, is being just practically bankrupted by the cost of sewer rates and sewer construction. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Just one last piece. I wish that we didn't have to extend the system. I wish I didn't have to even ask for any of this. This is an application to go for grant money, not to do anything more than that. And Commissioner Sheldon, I wish you'd have never put us in this position.
And I resent you saying that. I didn't. You know, it takes two votes to do something on a commission. It takes two votes. It took a lot of input from the state to find that money. Congressman Dix found some money. The federal government obviously helped. The state government obviously helped. But I can say that for those commercial users, we had to do something. If you wanted a school, to build a school, you needed a sewer system. If you wanted a large grocery, you needed a sewer system. For urban services, you needed a sewer system. But for residences out on the Belfair Highway, do they really need a sewer system? What you're saying is we need the developers. We're going to provide something for the developers so they can bring new homes to the area and pay for this system. I think that those people, if you ask them to a person, if their system was operating properly, and we've checked these systems out there over the years, if it's operating properly, why would they want to spend the money to go on a sewer system? They don't have the income to do it.
Again, I agree with you, and I sure wish you hadn't screwed up so bad that we have to even talk about this.
I'm gonna
I
Stop the
don't. I
discussion.
resent
We're
that
not-
comment too. I'm trying to be polite to you, Commissioner,
It
but
is
it's
our hopes
difficult
that this
to
was
continue.
a opportunity to deliberate and discuss and maybe accommodate. We'll call for the vote. All in favor for the motion, please say aye.
All right?
Aye. Any nays?
I'll emphatically vote no.
Motion carried. That takes us to item number, there are no public hearings at this time. Item number 10 is our board reports and calendars. Commissioner Netherland had an appointment, and I would welcome you to
I'll go first so I can...
go ahead and be able to step out if you'd like to afterwards.
I attended a meeting in Olympia at a hearing with the local government, with the House, in regards to the Growth Management Act. Employee Service Awards, Mason Transit Authority, Budget Workshop, Opiate Forum, which was incredible. St. David's to talk about some of the homeless issues and the impact that specific building is having on some of the community there. EDC membership meeting, the return of the tie-dye event, Farmers Market, Flea Market. I hadn't had a chance to do that here in Shelton before. It was wonderful. Slice for Life up in Belfair, our briefings. I went to KMAS this morning. We had our Board of Health meeting. Right after this, I have a debate, 2017 briefing or budget workshop tomorrow. North Mason Chamber of Commerce lunch in line of Healthy South Sound, meeting with some doctors and providers in regards to a Suboxone outlet here in Mason County. North Mason Chamber of Commerce debate. Believe it or not, I'm going to Arsenio Hall. Oyster Fest brings us back to our briefing. I have a left board meeting, and I think that's probably enough.
And Commissioner, I cannot step away from my meeting tomorrow night. They need a quorum for the Community Action Council with quite a few
So
action
I
items.
will attend that Suboxone meeting.
Thank you for your offer. And if you need to leave, I would. Okay, Commissioner Sheldon, did you want to share your calendar?
Sure. Last week I had combined vacation with a business trip with Energy Northwest to San Francisco, and had some very interesting discussions with Bonneville Power, who was there, as well as our executive board for Energy Northwest. And
Could you pass me down the...
yes, certainly. We talked about, of course, the refinancing, and we came up with a plan, a financial plan, to refinance about $950 million in debt at Treasury rates, which are 7.5%, to reduce those to market rates, which could be 2 to 3%. So for the ratepayers of the region, it will save about $40 million in 1 year. And from those discussions with a company called public financial management, which Bonneville Power and Energy Northwest both employ. They are the leader in the country in financing public debt and advising. They don't hold any paper, but they advise those entities like Bonneville, City of Charlotte, go down to Detroit, go down the list. They are advisors to them on how to structure their debt. And I think this is, it told me as a commissioner that there's great opportunities to look at options that we have. Now, we're not the City of Detroit, and we're not Bonneville Power, but the principles are still the same of finance. And I hope that we can take a look at some of those and talk to some professionals on how we might develop this Belfair sewer plan, which we don't have, but let's develop it with some real professionals. So I had a good week, and I think the time was well spent. Coming up this next week, let's see, Oyster Fest is next weekend, isn't it? Not this weekend.
It's this weekend.
This weekend, I wanted to make sure that, as we announced that we're going to be at the same place at the same time, that I will be there. Also, I have I think that's the only meeting that possibly we would be together, so I wanted to let you know that.
Thank you. Following last week's commissioner meeting, I hosted the Employee Service Awards. I thank our staff for putting that together and congratulate all the employees from 10 to 35 years of service to Mason County. We had a Mason Transit Authority Board, and I attended the two Skookum and Shelton Rotary New Teachers Banquet. Was very encouraged that almost half of the new teachers serving in the Mason County are from Mason County. So we have a lot of young people who went to college and returned. It was very encouraging. Criminal Justice Working Team, budget workshops, Hood Canal Guardian Council Outreach Subcommittee meeting, and then attended the Opiate Community Meeting. Attended the two-day Transportation Improvement Board meeting, finalized the WACs for the legislatively approved Complete Streets Awards program, and then I found that there will be $20 million extra dollars for Transportation Improvement Board monies, and I'm very encouraged that the City of Shelton and will encourage the Mason County to take advantage of this program more robustly than we have in the past. Also sad to say that the Executive Director, Steve Gorchester, is retiring as of the end of November. You may know him.
Yep, he's done a great job.
Yes, he has. Let's see, we had briefings yesterday, and then today we had our Board of Health meeting, and I met with our Public Works Director on our utility needs here in the county. Tomorrow, I have a Memorial Hall meeting, budget workshops, law library, and Community Action Council Board meeting. I will be spending all day Thursday setting up for Oyster Fest. Be attending Rich Geiger's funeral Friday the 30th and meeting, that was canceled. I'll be at the North Mason Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum on Thursday the 29th at the Hub Center. I believe Commissioner Netherland will be there as well. I will be working all weekend long, probably from opening to closing at Oyster Fest. Back here for briefings on Monday, and commission meeting again on Tuesday morning. Is there anything else? Is there any department heads? No department heads. Is there anything else to come before the board? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'm sure I move that the Board of County Commissioners adjourn.
And I'll second. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Gentlemen, was there an issue that you wanted to discuss? Or are you just interested? Thank you for being here.